I don't know how to start. What should I say? Oh, goodness. Hi, everyone. Happy Pride Month. I've decided that this month I'm going to film a couple of videos in honor of Pride Month, but also just to share my experience growing up LDS and then coming out and being in a lesbian relationship, which I think that actually even people that know me pretty well are curious to know a little bit more about that experience, and then also hopefully people that are going through the same thing that I don't know in person will be able to get something from this. But also, as I've been thinking about my coming out experience, which I have leading up to June, I've seen so many gay people like posting in preparation for Pride Month. Hi, honey. I realized that I've become a little bit, I'm like losing some of my memories of my early life and then also even just like my coming out experience, and so I'm documenting these videos also a little bit for me. So the first video is going to be me talking about my sexuality journey up until I realized I was gay. So that's pretty much like elementary school up until when I was 18 years old, I admitted to myself that I was gay. So that's going to be the topic of this video, and then Lauren is going to share next video about her experience growing up and coming out, and then we're going to do a video together about our relationship and how we ended up finding each other and deciding to be together. And then we're going to do one other video. I think it's going to be really fun for us regardless of who watches it, for the reasons I already listed, but hopefully it'll be something that people that we know and maybe people that we don't know enjoy as well. If you've gotten this far, thanks for watching. Okay, so the earliest memories that I have of even knowing about gay people or gayness is actually in elementary school. There was a girl in my grade who had 2 moms, and these memories are really pretty faded. So actually, if anybody knows what I'm talking about from my childhood, you should let me know. But I remember that there was somebody in my grade who had 2 moms, and that was sort of talked about a little bit. That's like all I remember. And then also, this maybe goes without saying if you know that I grew up Mormon, but in a lot of active Mormon families will have something called the family proclamation in their home, and it's basically a statement that right off the bat says marriage is between a man and a woman, and so that was always on our wall. It was always something that I was learning about at church and in my family, and so those are my earliest memories. Like, I knew that what my family believed was that marriage was between a man and a woman only, and that I knew that somebody in my elementary school was deviating from that, or at least the parents of that person. That's just in my memory, and I don't really remember having emotions about it, but it was the first memory that I can recollect where I was thinking about sexuality or families from like a sexuality lens. Fast forward to middle school, this was the first time that I noticed I was attracted to women, but I didn't necessarily, I start identifying differently than straight. So I always, throughout my whole life, had really, really close friendships with girls, but in middle school, this changed to even be even more close. And so there was a girl that was like my best friend in middle school, and I realized one night that the way I felt about her was the way that I felt about like the boys that I was supposed to be dating, or at least the feelings that I was supposed to have towards those boys that I was dating, if that makes sense. For example, I remember wanting to have her all to myself, and I wanted people to identify us as like a couple almost, and I wasn't thinking the word couple, but I just wanted possession, that sounds creepy, of her. We would hold hands walking through the hallway at my middle school, but that was pretty common. There were lots of girls that did that, and I still follow them today. Like, I see them on Instagram and they're not gay as far as I know. So it was kind of like a cultural thing at our middle school. It was like okay for girls to walk around holding hands. But also me me and this girl would kiss, like on the lips very briefly in the hallways. And I don't remember, it's not like I was feeling sexual feelings necessarily at that point for her, but I did just feel these emotional feelings, like I wanted her to be mine. And I remember thinking about this one night as a middle schooler and realizing I want her to be my girlfriend, and I'm going to tell her that tomorrow. But then the more I thought about that, the more terrified I got. I just felt really unsure and afraid, and almost just like this heavy burden of like, I felt like I realized if I were to verbalize that, my whole life would change. In fact, I remember that very thing, bless you, that very thing coming through my mind. And so I ended up not telling anybody. I didn't tell her, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell any of my other friends. I just kept it to myself. And it was like a little bit painful, but it wasn't super, it wasn't like a huge challenge or anything. I kind of just like pushed it aside and moved on. And so I just sort of went along my merry way, and it didn't impact me very much. And then high school is when it got a little bit harder. There was, right off the bat, this is like at the beginning of high school. Oh man, see my memories. There was a girl who was in the theater department who was like a little bit edgy, and we had a lot of mutual friends, and I just was very fascinated with this girl, and I would get so excited if she would talk to me in the hallway, and I think I had heard this girl is bi or she's gay, and I always wanted her to talk to me about that, or I wish she would ask me out or something, knowing that she probably thinks I'm not gay, but I wish she would like risk that and just tell me anyway. Which now, looking back, I definitely think I had a crush on her, but I didn't recognize it really at the time, or I did, but I just didn't want to think about it. Which leads me to the second half of my high school experience, which is when I really experienced what I view as sort of like my first real love. Should I say that?
Sure.
Who also happened to be my best friend. So, and if you're from my hometown, you know who I'm talking about, and she's given me permission to use her name. So if you know Mimi, congratulations. She's a good person to know. Stop laughing at me. Mimi moved to my high school, I think my sophomore year, but we weren't really friends until my junior year. The summer before junior year, we really hit it off, and then junior and senior year, we were, from my recollection, pretty much inseparable. And we identified as best friends, and and we had other close friends as well. We kind of had, I always had the habit in my life of like being in little groups of 3 girls that are best friends, which is really messy. I don't recommend it, but we had other friends as well. But I loved Mimi, and I spent all of my free time with her. I would have done anything that she said. We had deep conversations that I really wasn't having with anybody outside of my family. I just want to be clear, I wasn't thinking in my head in high school, I have a crush on Mimi, but I just loved her, and I would be jealous if she spent time with other people. I would be jealous if she had a boyfriend. I would be like super cuddly, which my parents and her, the people that she was living with, definitely commented on and thought was strange. But we both dated boys consistently through high school and just never talked about it. And then something really impactful happened, which is that one of our seminary teachers came out as gay, and that was huge for me, and it kind of filled this void, I think, for me, because my whole life I had been like interested in homosexuality, or like fascinated about learning about it, and I'd been super friendly with people in my high school that were openly gay, or not even like openly gay, but people just knew they were gay, and I just like wanted to be friends with those people. Those were mostly boys, like in choir and stuff, but I just didn't know how to conceptualize a Mormon being gay, whether an active Mormon or an inactive Mormon. And so when our seminary teacher, Josh Weed, I don't know if I should say that name or not, maybe I should ask him, came out, it changed a lot for me. And I remember having conversations with Mimi about Josh is coming out and like what that meant for us as Mormons. And this was senior year, and so this was getting closer to the time where I really confronted my gayness. But still, at this point, I hadn't. And so Mimi and I graduated from high school, and she went off to college, and I went to live with my grandmother in a different state. And that was the longest time in like 2.5 years that we'd ever been separated. And I missed her so, so much. And at this point, I still was not thinking like, oh, I have a crush on this girl. I just missed her. And so anyways, we spent 4 months apart, and then at Christmas time, it was like she came home from college and I came home from my grandma's house, and we saw each other for the first time. And this was, I remember sitting in the car in front of a QFC, and we sort of alluded to the fact that we're really attracted to one another. And my heart was pounding, and I couldn't believe that we were almost saying these words, but I felt them, and it was terrifying, and I still don't think I was fully willing to admit to myself, this means that you are gay. But I do remember like the fear, but also the excitement. Like it felt really good, and I almost was desperate to talk about it because I had been feeling it for so long. After that Christmas break, we both went to the same college, and for 1 semester we were there. And this is when I finally admitted to myself that I'm gay. And the moment that it happened, Mimi and I had a class together. It was a humanities class, and we were like talking and joking around, and there was this guy that would sit behind us, and he kind of was like a cool guy, and he kind of would like flirt with Mimi, and then he'd flirt with me, and one morning he just was bugging me so much, and I think it was because he was flirting with Mimi, and I just felt this like anger, like get off of her. Ugh. It was, so after class I'd like said goodbye to Mimi, we walked our separate ways, and I just started to feel this like mourning inside. It was like a mourning, because from my perspective at that time, I had realized I'm in love with Mimi, and I can never be with her, but I want to be with her so badly. So that evening, I think I probably said something like, I really want to talk to you, and we went into like the lounge of the apartment complex that we were living in, and I said, I think I have feelings for you, and she said, I think I have feelings for you too. And it was really emotional and terrifying, but also it felt so good. It just felt like this release and this freedom to finally admit to myself what I had been suspecting for a long time, but I'd just been too afraid to admit. So we talked for a couple of hours, and then BYU Idaho has a curfew, and so we had to go back to our apartments. And once we'd separated, that's when like the reality hit me that I had just admitted to a girl that I had romantic feelings for them, and then I started to get really scared. But then also I had started praying really, really hard when I got home. And then after praying for like a long time, just feeling so terrible, I wrote down in this journal, like, it's all going to be okay. That's like the ultimate feeling that I got for like a little bit, and then I went back to feeling terrified. So that is the first time. I was actually 19 years old at the time, where I admitted to myself that I was gay, and my life really has never been the same. I view that night as sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Horcrux.
Not a horcrux. I view that night as a pivotal moment in my journey, and I feel like admitting to Mimi that night that I loved her was something, like, if I hadn't have done that, I probably would have done it eventually, but like when I did that, that changed everything about the future course of my life. So that's gonna be it for this video. That was the first 19 years of my life. And so next video I'm gonna have Lauren pop on, and I'll probably be in the frame with her, like asking her questions in case, trying to think of like your guys' perspective, wanting to know things. Lauren has a wonderful story, and then the video after that we'll be talking about our relationship and our love and how that came to be. So anyways, happy Pride Month. If you made it through that video, thanks for watching. Yeah, this is new, so we'll see how this goes.